Imagine walking through a city that is completely destroyed. Broken houses, collapsed walls, not a single person alive. You look around and ask yourself one question. How could Allah ever bring this town back to life again? And then something unbelievable happens. You fall asleep. Not for a few hours, not for a few days, but for 100 years. And when you wake up, your food is still fresh, your donkey is dead, and the entire town is alive again. This is the mysterious story mentioned in the Qur'an about the man who slept for 100 years. And the lesson behind it is powerful. Qur'an tells this story in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 259. The verse begins with a powerful scene. A man was traveling and he passed by a town that had been completely destroyed. The buildings had collapsed, roofs had fallen, walls were broken and scattered on the ground. Everything looked dead. No people, no animals, no movement, just silence. It looked like a place that had been abandoned for a very long time. When the man saw this destruction, a thought crossed his mind. He said, "How will Allah bring this town back to life after its death?" This was not disbelief, it was curiosity. He wanted to understand how resurrection happens. How does life return after everything has turned to dust? And Allah decided to show him the answer, but not through words, through an experience. The man had a donkey with him, and he was carrying food and drink for his journey. He stopped in that ruined town and rested for a while. Then something extraordinary happened. Allah caused him to die or fall into a deep sleep. Time passed, days passed, months passed, years passed, then decades passed. The destroyed town slowly began to rebuild. New people came, homes were rebuilt, life returned. Generations grew up, but the man remained asleep, not for 1 year, not for 10 years, but for 100 years. After a full century had passed, Allah brought him back. The man woke up. For him, it felt like a short nap. He looked around, confused. And then Allah asked him a question. "How long did you remain here?" The man replied honestly. He said, "Maybe I stayed a day, or part of a day." He thought only a few hours had passed, but Allah told him the truth. "No, you remained here for 100 years. Imagine hearing that. 100 years, an entire century had passed while he slept. Then Allah showed him the first sign. Allah told him, "Look at your food and drink. It has not spoiled. Normally, food spoils within hours, maybe a day or two, but his food and drink had remained exactly the same, fresh, untouched, as if time had frozen for it." But then Allah told him to look at something else, something shocking. Allah said, "Look at your donkey." The man turned and looked. His donkey was no longer alive. It had died long ago. All that remained were bones scattered on the ground. This showed the difference between two things. The food had not aged at all, but the donkey had completely decayed. Now Allah was about to show him something incredible. Allah told the man to watch carefully. The bones of the donkey began to move. They slowly came together, one by one. Every bone returned to its correct place. The skeleton was rebuilt. Then the bones were covered with flesh. Muscles appeared. Skin covered the body. Finally, life returned to the donkey, and it stood up again, alive. Imagine witnessing this with your own eyes. A dead animal, reconstructed step by step, until it was alive again. At that moment, the man understood. After seeing this miracle, the man said, "Now I know that Allah has power over all things." This experience showed him the reality of resurrection. If Allah can rebuild bones, if Allah can bring life back to something completely dead, then bringing humans back to life on the Day of Judgment is easy for him. This was the lesson Allah wanted to show, not only to that man, but to everyone who reads this story. Think about it. Every day we see small examples of life returning. Dry land becomes green after rain. Seeds buried in soil grow into plants. Trees lose their leaves and then become alive again. Nature itself shows signs of resurrection, but sometimes humans forget. This story reminds us that death is not the end. Just as Allah revived the donkey, just as Allah preserved the food, and just as Allah brought the man back after 100 years, Allah will also bring humanity back on the Day of Judgment. The story of the man who slept for 100 years teaches a simple but powerful lesson. Time does not limit Allah. Death does not limit Allah. And rebuilding life is not difficult for Allah. What looks impossible to us is easy for the Creator. So whenever you see something that feels impossible, remember this story. Because the same Allah who brought a man back after 100 years has power over everything, and that reminder changes the way we see life, death, and the future.